stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, his three eyes focused on the holographic display before him. The image showed burning colonies, destroyed ships, and thousands of lives lost. The Empire had struck again, this time hitting 3 human border worlds in a single night. "This is unacceptable," Council Head said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The must be stopped." Watched as the other council members shifted uncomfortably. His people had been part of the council for over 3,000 years. They had seen many wars, always fought the same way. Long-range weapons, calculated strikes, minimal losses. It was the civilized way. "The humans have requested permission to respond," and continued. "They wish to send a military fleet." A ripple of concern moved through the chamber. Humanity had only joined the council 40 years ago. They were still considered young, reckless, too emotional. Many species questioned whether they belonged in the council at all. "Someone must observe them," and said. "Someone must document how they fight, ensure they follow galactic warfare conventions." Felt his heart sink as his gaze fell upon him. "Observer, you will accompany the human fleet. You will report everything you see." 3 days later, stood in the docking bay of Station 7, waiting for the human ship to arrive. He had spent those 3 days reading everything he could about humanity. What he found disturbed him. Humans came from a death world. Their planet had extreme weather, dangerous predators, and diseases that would kill most galactic species in hours. Somehow, humans had not just survived but thrived. They had built cities, created art, and developed technology that made other species nervous. Their history was even worse. Humans had fought thousands of wars against each other. They had built weapons capable of destroying their own planet. Twice they had nearly made themselves extinct. Yet here they were, reaching for the stars. The docking bay doors opened with a hiss. The UNS Defiant moved into position and got his first look at a human warship up close. It was not elegant like ships or graceful like cruisers. It was a block of metal and weapons, covered in armor plating and bristling with missiles. The airlock opened. A human stepped out. "Observer," the human asked. He was tall, with dark hair and sharp eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in insignia did not recognize. "I'm Captain Park. Welcome aboard the Defiant." Bowed in the way. "Thank you for allowing me to observe." Smiled. It was strange seeing human teeth. They were flat in front but had sharp points on the sides. Predator teeth. "Come on, I'll show you around." The inside of the Defiant was cramped compared to council ships. Every space was used. Crew members moved quickly through the corridors, calling out to each other, some of them laughing. Found it shocking. They were heading to war, yet they seemed relaxed. "This is First Officer," said, introducing a shorter human with quick movements and alert eyes. "He keeps this ship running." Nodded at. "Good to have you aboard. Try not to get in the way when things get exciting." "Exciting?" asked. "He means when we start shooting," a female voice said. Turned to see a young woman with her hair tied back. "I'm Lieutenant, Tactical Officer. I'm the one who decides what we shoot and when." Led to the bridge. It was smaller than he expected, with humans sitting at various stations. Screens showed data, star maps, and weapon systems. Everything looked functional, nothing decorative. "We'll reach the war zone in 3 days," said, settling into the captain's chair. "They hit our colonies at New Sol Station and Terra Nova. We're going to hit them back." "The Council recommends measured response," said carefully. "Long-range engagement, minimal casualties." Several humans on the bridge turned to look at him. Some smiled, others looked confused. "Observer," said slowly, "they just killed 30,000 civilians. Men, women, children. They bombed hospitals. They targeted schools. Do you really think we're going to stand back and throw rocks at them from a distance?" Felt his skin change color, a sign of stress among his people. "I am only stating council protocols." "We'll follow the rules," said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Right up until they break them, then all bets are off." Over the next 3 days, observed the human crew. They trained constantly. They ran combat drills. They practiced with their weapons until their hands bled, then practiced more. When they were not training, they ate together, told stories, and laughed. He interviewed many of them. A young pilot named told him about her family on Terra Nova. A Marine named Jin showed him human weapons, explaining how each one was designed to kill efficiently. The medical officer walked him through the medical bay. It was huge, with beds for hundreds of wounded. "You expect many casualties?" asked. Looked at him with sad eyes. "We always expect casualties. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's the human way." On the 3rd day, alarms began to sound. Rushed to the bridge to find everyone at their stations. The screens showed dozens of ships ahead. Some were council vessels. Others were dreadnoughts, massive and powerful. "Battle stations," ordered calmly. All hands, this is the captain. They are still attacking the colonies. We're going in. Do your jobs, watch each other's backs, and we'll all go home together. Defiant out. Watched as the human crew moved with purpose. No panic, no fear, just determination. Observer said, you might want to strap in. Things are about to get rough. Moved to a seat at the back of the bridge and secured himself. He could see the fleet. They were firing on the colonies below, destroying what little remained of the orbital stations. Captain said, we're receiving orders from the Council fleet. They want us to hold position and provide support fire from range. Looked at the screen for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a kind smile. Negative, he said. All ships, this is Captain Park. We're going in close. Follow us or don't, but those are our people down there and we're not leaving them. Sir said, plotting attack course. Felt the ship shudder as the engines powered up. He watched as the Defiant turned toward the enemy fleet and began to accelerate. Other human ships followed. The Council vessels hung back, keeping their distance as protocol demanded. But the humans charged forward, directly into the teeth of the enemy. Realized with growing horror that he was about to witness something the galaxy had not seen in 1,000 years. Humanity at war. The first missile hit the Defiant before could even process what was happening. The ship shook violently, throwing him against his restraints. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed across every surface. Hull breach deck 7, someone called out. Ciolet ordered, his voice steady. Continue forward. Could not believe what he was hearing. They had just been hit, yet the captain wanted to continue. The way was to fall back, reassess, find a safer approach. But the Defiant kept accelerating, diving deeper into the formation. Tactical, give me firing solutions on those dreadnoughts, said. Fingers flew across her console. Locked, we have 6 targets in range. Fire everything. The Defiant unleashed its weapons. Missiles streaked from launch tubes. Energy beams cut through space. Kinetic rounds, simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds, tore into shields. Watched in shock as one of the massive ships shuddered under the assault. But they were firing back. They showed dozens of incoming weapons. Most Council ships would try to dodge, to maneuver away. The Defiant flew straight through the barrage. Brace called out. Explosions rocked the ship. Metal screamed. Somewhere below heard something collapse, yet the bridge crew kept working, kept fighting as if being shot at was normal. More human ships coming in, reported. They are flanking those cruisers. The Soul is going for the carrier. Through the chaos, saw other human vessels. They moved in patterns that made no sense to his tactical training. They flew too close to enemy ships. They exposed vulnerable sections to get better firing angles. They took damage that would cripple Council vessels, yet they kept fighting. Launch fighters ordered. A section of the Defiant's hull opened. Small craft poured out, dozens of them. Had read about human fighters. They were tiny, fast, and piloted by single individuals. Most galactic species had given up on such craft centuries ago. Too dangerous, too many casualties. But humans still used them. This is Commander Ho Yang, a voice came over the speakers. Fighter group is clear and engaging. Let's show these how humans fly. Watched on the tactical display as the fighters swarmed the ships. They moved in ways that seemed impossible, spinning and diving, working together like a school of fish. One fighter would draw fire while others attacked from behind. When point defense destroyed one fighter, 2 more would take its place. He saw 3 human fighters destroyed in seconds, saw the pilots die, yet the rest kept attacking. We've lost contact with the reported. She's venting atmosphere. Life pods are launching. Mark their position, said. We'll pick them up after. Weapons target that dreadnought, the one that hit the... Targeting confirmed. Fire. Every weapon the Defiant had focused on a single ship. The dreadnought's shields collapsed. Armor boiled away. Explosions rippled across its hull. Within 30 seconds, the massive ship was dead in space. That's for the... someone muttered. The battle raged around them. Tried to make sense of it all, but human tactics were nothing like what he had studied. They did not stay in formation. They did not maintain safe distances. They fought like animals, wild and unpredictable. Yet it was working. Slowly, impossibly, they were being pushed back. Captain said, the Council fleet is requesting we fall back to their position. They say we're taking too much damage. Looked at the tactical display. The Defiant had lost shields in 3 sections. Hull breaches were reported on 6 decks. Casualties were mounting. Tell them thanks for the concern, said, but we're not done yet. An explosion shook the bridge. Sparks flew from a console. Saw a young human, barely more than a juvenile, rush over with a repair kit. The boy had blood on his face, but his hands were steady as he worked. Engineering called, talk to me, Jin. "We're holding," a gruff voice responded. "Lost power to sections 12 through 15. Rerouting. But Captain, the reactor is running hot. We're pushing past safety limits." "Can we keep fighting?" A pause, then, "Yes, sir. But if we take another hit to the engine core, we're done." "Understood, keep us flying." Watched as the engineer Jin Nam appeared on one of the screens. He was in a section of the ship that had lost pressure. He wore an emergency suit and was manually welding a breach shut, working in vacuum while the battle raged around him. Humans were insane. "Fighter group, this is Defiant," said. "We need an opening. Can you clear us a path to that carrier?" "Understood, Captain," Ho replied. "We're on it. All fighters form up on me. We're making a run." Watch the tactical display in horror as every human fighter, over 40 small craft, dove toward the carrier. It was a suicide run. The carrier's point defense would cut them apart. But the fighters were not attacking the carrier. They were attacking its defensive guns, systematically destroying the weapons meant to protect it. Fighters rose to meet them, and a massive dogfight erupted. Saw fighters collide, saw them explode, saw them break apart under enemy fire. The humans lost 20 fighters in under a minute. But they cleared the path. "All power to forward weapons," ordered. "One shot, make it count." "Locked on target," said. Her voice was cold, focused, firing. The Defiant's main cannon, a weapon that had not even known was there, fired a single round. It was not energy. It was matter, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. A simple slug of dense metal. It hit the carrier dead center. The result was catastrophic. The kinetic energy was so massive that it did not just pierce the ship. It passed completely through, and the carrier came apart like something made of paper. Secondary explosions rippled along its length. Thousands have died in seconds. "Target destroyed," reported quietly. The remaining ships seemed to hesitate. In all of studies, he had never read about hesitating, but they were facing something they had not expected. They were facing humans. "Sir," said, "they are breaking formation. They're retreating." "All ships," ordered, "pursuit course. Don't let them regroup." Captain found himself saying, "They are retreating. The battle is won. Galactic protocol says to let them go." Every human on the bridge turned to look at him. Their expressions were hard, cold. "Observer," said, his voice carrying an edge had not heard before, "those ships killed 30,000 of our people. They bombed our colonies. They targeted civilians. And you want us to just let them leave so they can come back and do it again?" Had no answer. "We didn't start this fight," continued, "but we're damn sure going to finish it. Helm, pursue." The Defiant, battered and bleeding, its hull and smoking, chased after the retreating. Other human ships followed, leaving the Council fleet behind. Sat in his seat, his three eyes wide, his mind struggling to process what he had witnessed. He had seen galactic warfare, clean, calculated, with acceptable losses. But this was something else entirely. This was humanity's way of war. And for the first time in his long life, felt true fear. Not fear of the species he was traveling with, fear of what they might become if someone ever pushed them too far. The battle had lasted less than an hour. The humans had lost 3 ships and over 200 fighters. Casualties were in the thousands. Yet they called it a victory. And they were already preparing for the next fight. The medical bay was chaos. Stood near the entrance, trying to stay out of the way as medical staff rushed between patients. The wounded filled every bed and more were being brought in. The smell of burned flesh and disinfectant was overwhelming. Lee moved between patients with calm efficiency. Her hands were covered in blood, but her movements were steady. She stopped at a bed where a young man was missing his left arm below the elbow. The wound was cauterized, but the Marine was conscious and in obvious pain. "Hey, Jin," said gently, "I need you to stay still while I prep you for surgery." "Is it bad, Doc?" Jin asked, his voice tight. "You'll live. The arm we can replace with a cybernetic. You'll be back on duty in a month." "Good, good, I'm not done yet." Watched as injected something into Jin's neck. The Marine's eyes closed and his breathing steadied, then moved to the next patient and the next and the next. She did not stop, did not rest. "Observer." Turned to find First Officer standing behind him. The human looked exhausted. His uniform was torn in places, and a bandage covered one side of his face. "Captain wants to see you on the bridge," said. "We need to discuss something." Followed him through the damaged corridors. Crew members were everywhere repairing systems, welding hull plates, rerouting power. They worked quickly, efficiently, like insects rebuilding a hive. On the bridge, Captain stood at the main console with Lieutenant. They were reviewing tactical data. When approached, looked up. "Observer," said, "We have a problem. The Council is ordering us to return to the station. They say we've done enough. But they still have 3 battle groups in the sector, added, pointing to the display. They're regrouping here near the asteroid field. We've taken heavy casualties, said. Your ship is damaged. Surely returning is the logical choice. Logical, repeated as if tasting the word. Observer, can I show you something? He pulled up a new display. It showed casualty reports, not from the battle but from the attacks on the colonies. Names scrolled past, thousands of them, ages listed beside each name. Many were children. This is what happens when we're logical, said quietly. The Council has been logical with them for 20 years. The attack, the Council responds with economic sanctions and stern warnings. Then the attack again. But galactic protocols. I don't care about protocols, interrupted. His voice was not angry, just firm. I care about making sure they never do this again, and the only way to do that is to hurt them so badly they won't dare. Felt his skin shift colors again. You mean to genocide them? What? No, looked genuinely shocked. We're not monsters, observer. We just need to break their ability to wage war, destroy their fleet, their military infrastructure, make the costs so high they'll think twice before attacking anyone again. Even if it costs you everything. Smiled sadly. We're human, that's what we do. Later found himself in the ship's small library. He needed to understand, needed to know why humans thought this way. The Defiance computer granted him access to human historical records. What he found terrified him. Humans had spent fighting each other. Wars over territory, resources, religion, ideas. They had developed weapons of incredible destruction. Nuclear bombs that could level cities. Biological weapons that could kill millions. Chemical agents that made dying slow and agonizing. And they had used all of them on each other. Read about World War I. Trenches stretching for miles. Millions dead, poisoned by gas, shot by machine guns, blown apart by artillery. The war had lasted 4 years and accomplished almost nothing. Then World War II. More sophisticated weapons, more efficient killing. Cities burned, entire populations targeted, and at the end, humans had split the atom and created weapons that could destroy their own planet. They had come within minutes of using them, multiple times. Scary stuff, isn't it? Jumped, he had not heard anyone approach. A young woman stood nearby, wearing a science officer's uniform. She had kind eyes and carried a data pad. I'm Science Officer Sora Bay, she said. I see you're researching our history. I'm trying to understand, admitted. How did you survive? How does any species survive such violence? Sora sat down beside him. We almost didn't. There were moments when we came very close to extinction, but humans have something that might be unique in the galaxy. We're persistence hunters. I do not understand. Our ancestors on Earth didn't have claws or fangs or armor. We couldn't outrun prey, so we developed a different strategy. We would chase our prey for hours, sometimes days, until it collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't have to be faster. We just had to keep going longer. Sora pulled up an image on her data pad. It showed an ancient human, barely recognizable, chasing an animal across a plain. That instinct is still in us, she continued. When we face a problem, we don't give up. We keep pushing, keep trying, keep fighting, even when it seems impossible, especially when it seems impossible. But at such cost, said, your medical bay is full. You've lost ships, fighters, thousands of people. Yes, Sora agreed quietly, and every death hurts. But do you know what would hurt more? Giving up, going home and knowing we could have done more, knowing that they will attack again, kill more people because we didn't stop them when we had the chance. She stood up to leave, then paused. Observer, you come from a species that has never faced extinction. They evolved on a gentle world. You've never had to fight for survival, so you can't understand what it does to a species. It changes you, makes you hard, makes you willing to pay any price to ensure your people survive. After she left, continued his research. He found reports from other species' first contact with humanity. Most described humans as friendly, curious, eager to learn. But there were warnings in the classified sections. Warnings about human aggression, human weapons, human willingness to escalate conflicts. One report from a diplomat simply said, recommend extreme caution. Humans are kind until threatened. Once threatened, they become something else entirely. The next day was called to the medical bay again, wanted to show him something. When he arrived, he found the pilot Shin sitting on a bed. Her left arm was gone, replaced by a cybernetic limb. She was flexing the mechanical fingers, testing its response. How does it feel? Asked. Strange, admitted, but functional. When can I return to flight duty? 3 days if there are no complications. Make it 2, we need pilots. Could not help himself. You nearly died. You lost your arm, yet you want to return to combat. Looked at him with eyes that seemed much older than her face suggested. Observer, my brother was on Terra Nova. He was 9 years old. They bombed his school. Do you understand? They killed children, deliberately. Her mechanical hand clenched into a fist. I'm going back, she said firmly, because someone has to, because if we don't stop them now, they'll keep doing this. And next time it might be Earth. It might be your. No one is safe until they learn that attacking innocent people has consequences. That evening, the senior officers held a meeting, was invited to attend. They gathered in a small conference room, looking at star maps and battle projections. They have consolidated their remaining forces here, said, highlighting a system. 3 battle groups, maybe 60 ships total. We have 18 functional ships, added. We're outnumbered more than 3 to 1. The Council fleet won't follow us, Commander Ho said. He had survived the fighter engagement, though barely. They think we're crazy. They might be right, said, but he was smiling. Opinions. We go, said immediately. Agreed, Ho added. The crews want blood, said. They voted. 93% want to continue. You took a vote, asked, shocked, on a military decision. We're defending our home, explained. Everyone gets a say. Democracy doesn't end just because we're at war. This is madness, said. You cannot win. The mathematics are clear. You will lose. Looked at him for a long moment. Then he pulled up a quote on the main screen. It was in English, then translated. We didn't come this far to only come this far. Observer said, humans have a saying. Victory is not always about winning. Sometimes it's about making sure the other guy loses worse. We're going to hurt them so badly that they'll remember this day for generations, and they'll never forget what happens when you attack humanity. The vote was taken. It was unanimous. They would continue the fight. Returned to his quarters, his mind racing. He had seen their casualties, their damage, their losses, yet they pressed forward. It made no sense. Unless you understood that humans were not driven by logic. They were driven by something more powerful, something more dangerous. They were driven by the absolute certainty that some things were worth dying for. And they had decided they must be stopped, no matter the cost. The human fleet hung in space at the edge of the home system. 18 battered ships against 60 fresh warships stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the tactical display with growing dread. They know we're here, reported. Forces are forming defensive positions around their military stations. Good, said calmly. Let them gather, makes targeting easier. Could not understand the captain's tone. They were about to die, yet he sounded almost relaxed. Around the bridge, other crew members worked at their stations with the same calm efficiency they had shown throughout the campaign. Captain, a voice came over the comm. This is Council Fleet Command. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. You are in violation of multiple galactic warfare conventions. Respond. Looked at the communications officer, a young woman named. Kill that channel. Sir, it's the Council. We can't just. I said kill it. Hesitated for only a moment, then. The channel went dead. New contact, called out. Single ship approaching under Parley flag. Let's hear what they have to say, said. The changed. A commander appeared, its 4 eyes glowing with an emotion could not read. They were, with hard shells and clicking mandibles. They had been a scourge on the galaxy for decades, but no one had been able to stop them. Human commander, the spoke, its voice translated by the computer. You have fought well. Your species shows promise. Withdraw now and we will negotiate a peace. Continue and we will destroy you. Stood up, walking to stand in front of the. I am Captain Park of the United Nations ship Defiant. Let me make our position clear. You attacked our colonies. You killed our people. You targeted civilians, including children. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to surrender your entire military fleet. Now, or we're going to take it from you. The commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You have 18 damaged ships. We have 60. You are outnumbered. You cannot win. We'll see, said. You have 5 minutes to comply, Defiant out. The screen went dark, stared at the captain. You cannot be serious. They will never surrender. Probably not, agreed. Signal the fleet, execute Operation Hammer. Confirmed, said. All ships report ready. Watched as the human ships began to move, but they were not attacking. They were spreading out, forming a wide perimeter around the forces. It made no tactical sense. What are you doing? Asked. Something we should have done years ago, replied. Establish a link to all ships, broadcast on all channels. Link established, sir. His voice echoed across space, reaching every vessel. Attention forces, this is your final warning. Power down your weapons and engines. Prepare to be boarded. Refuse, and we will destroy not just your fleet but your ability to ever wage war again. They're laughing at us, reported. Multiple channels showing mockery. Their funeral, said quietly. Lieutenant Wu, you're up. A new face appeared on one of the screens. Lieutenant Wu had sharp features and intense eyes. He was the fleet's communication specialist, but had learned he had other skills as well. "All networks penetrated, Captain," Wu reported. "I'm into their command systems, uploading the package now." "What package?" demanded. No one answered. Although the commander appeared again, its mandibles spread wide in anger. "Human deception. You hack our systems. This is a violation of—" "Oh, we're just getting started with violations," interrupted. "Show them, Wu." Every screen on every ship suddenly displayed the same image. A weapon, unlike anything in the galactic database. Sleek, deadly, with containment fields that glowed with barely restrained power. "That's an antimatter bomb," whispered horror filling his voice. "Those have been banned for 2,000 years. The Council outlawed them after the incident. You cannot have those." "Actually," said, not looking up from his console, "the Council banned their use against member species. They aren't members. Convenient loophole." "You built them anyway," could barely speak. "You've been part of the Council for only 40 years, and you built weapons capable of destroying planets." "We've had the capability since before we joined," said. "We just never saw a reason to use them, until now." The commander's face filled the screen again. For the first time, saw something in those alien eyes that he recognized. Fear. "You would not dare," they said. "The galactic community would never forgive such an act." "You killed 30,000 of our people," said, his voice cold. "You think we care about forgiveness? You think we care what the galaxy thinks? You started this war, we're going to end it, permanently." "This is a bluff," they insisted, but its voice was less certain. Weapons Officer Song called out. "Target that moon, the military installation, fire one weapon, low yield." A human woman at the weapons console looked up. Her hands moved across the controls without hesitation. Weapon armed, firing. Watch the tactical display. A small object, barely visible, separated from one of the human ships. It moved toward a small moon orbiting the moon was covered in military installations, weapons platforms, and manufacturing facilities. The weapon struck. For a moment nothing happened. Then the moon simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not shattered. It was there 1 second and gone the next. In its place was an expanding field of energy that would take months to dissipate. Millions of tons of matter converted directly into energy. Every ship in the system registered the blast. The scanners would have picked it up. They would know, without any doubt, that the humans had just erased a moon from existence. "That was 5% yield," reported calmly. "We have 12 more weapons, some much larger." The silence that followed was absolute. Even they seemed unable to process what they had just witnessed. "Now," said, his voice cutting through the stillness, "let me be very clear. You have two choices. One, you power down your weapons right now, surrender your fleet, and agree to a peace treaty that ensures you never threaten anyone again. Two, we start targeting your military infrastructure. We have enough weapons to destroy every military installation in this system, every shipyard, every weapons platform, every orbital facility." "You would kill billions," the commander said. "No," corrected. "We would destroy military targets. We're not like you. We don't target civilians. But if your military is stupid enough to keep fighting, then yes, there will be casualties. That's on you." Watched as the commander seemed to shrink. Its mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in biology. This is genocide," they said weakly. "This is justice," replied. "You chose to make war on humanity. You chose to kill our children. Now you get to live with the consequences. Decide now." The ships hung in space, unmoving. Could imagine the debates happening on those vessels. They were warlike, but they were not stupid. They had just watched a moon vanish. They knew the humans were not bluffing. "Ships are powering down," reported. "Weapons going offline there. They're surrendering." A cheer went up from the human crew. Not loud, not triumphant, just relieved. They had won. "All ships," ordered, "maintain alert status. Coordinate with the other captains. I want boarding parties on every vessel. Secure their weapons, their data, everything." "Yes, sir." Turn 2. The observer had not moved, had not spoken. He was trying to process what he had just witnessed. "Observer," said quietly, "I want you to understand something. We didn't want this. We didn't want to build those weapons. We didn't want to use them. But when you're facing an enemy that targets civilians, that kills children, you do what you have to do." "You violated every principle of galactic warfare," said. "We followed the letter of the law," corrected. "They aren't council members. The weapons bans don't apply." "You knew this. You planned this from the beginning." "We hoped it wouldn't come to this," admitted. "But yes, we were prepared. That's what humans do. We prepare for the worst and hope for the best." Over the next hours, human Marines boarded ships. They secured weapons, took prisoners, and documented everything. They offered no resistance. They had been broken, not just militarily but psychologically. Commander Ho landed his fighter in the Defiance Bay. When he climbed out, his face was covered in sweat and his hands were shaking, but he was smiling. "We did it," he said to anyone who would listen. "We actually did it." Stood on the observation deck, watching as the fleet was systematically dismantled. Human efficiency was terrifying. Within days, this threat that had plagued the galaxy for decades would be eliminated. Impressive, isn't it? Science officer Sora stood beside him, also watching the operation. "It is terrifying," corrected. "That too," Sora agreed. "But necessary. The needed to learn that there are consequences for their actions, that some species will not be bullied." "At what cost?" asked. "You lost thousands of people, your ships are damaged, you've revealed weapons that will make the entire galaxy fear you." "Yes," Sora said simply, "but they won't attack anyone again. And maybe, just maybe, other species thinking about starting wars will remember what happened here. Remember what happens when you push humans too far." Looked at her. "You are not afraid of being feared." Sora smiled sadly. "We're human, we've been feared before, by each other, by nature, by the universe itself. We survived anyway, we'll survive this too." The war was over. It had lasted 4 days. 4 days to break an empire that had threatened the galaxy for decades. 4 days to show the cosmos what humanity was truly capable of. And realized with crystal clarity that everything was about to change. 6 months had passed since the end of the war. Stood before the Galactic Council, his 3 eyes scanning the assembled representatives. Every major species was present. The chamber was silent, waiting for him to speak. "Honored council members," began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "I have completed my observation of humanity's military operations against the Empire. What I witnessed has forced me to everything we thought we knew about warfare, about survival, and about the human species." He activated the holographic display. Images appeared, showing the battle at the border colonies. Council members watched in silence as human ships charged directly into enemy fire, as fighters swarmed vessels, as the Defiant took damage that would have destroyed any other ship yet kept fighting. "Humans do not fight like us," continued. "They do not calculate acceptable losses. They do not maintain safe distances. They do not follow conventional tactics. They fight like—" he paused, searching for the right word, "like predators that have been cornered and have nothing left to lose." The display changed, showing casualty reports. The numbers were staggering: 3,000 human dead, 6,000 wounded, 4 ships destroyed, dozens of fighters lost. Yet despite these losses, said, they continued forward. They voted among themselves to continue. Democracy, even in the face of death. This is something I have never seen in any other species. More images appeared. The medical bay, engineer Jin working in vacuum, pilot returning to duty with a cybernetic arm, captain refusing to retreat. "I interviewed hundreds of humans during the campaign," explained. "I asked them why they fought so hard, why they took such risks. The answers varied, but the core was always the same. They fought for each other, for their families, for people they would never meet. They have a concept they call duty that transcends logic and self-preservation." The display showed the final battle, the moon being destroyed, the surrender. A council member stood. "Observer, are you saying humans possess weapons capable of planetary destruction? Weapons banned by this very council?" "Yes," confirmed. "But I must note that technically they did not violate council law. The weapons ban applies only to member species. They are not members." "A technicality," another member shouted. "They built weapons of mass destruction." "They built them before joining the council," said calmly, "and only used them when facing an enemy that had killed 30,000 civilians. I do not condone their actions, but I understand them." The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded humanity's expulsion from the council, others called for sanctions, still others remained silent, thinking. Council Hedden raised his hand for silence. "Observer, based on your findings, do you believe humanity poses a threat to the council?" Considered the question carefully. He thought about Captain, about the crew of the Defiant, about every human he had met during those terrible days. "Honored council head," he said slowly, "I believe humanity poses a threat to anyone who threatens them first. They are not conquerors. They did not claim territory. They did not enslave survivors. They dismantled military capabilities and left, but—" He paused, making sure every council member was listening. "If any species makes the mistake of attacking humanity with intent to genocide, with intent to destroy them utterly, then yes, humanity will respond with everything they have, and they have a great deal more than we suspected." The doors to the chamber opened. A human walked in, flanked by guards, recognized him immediately. Admiral Sung, representing Earth's military forces. He was older than most humans had met, with gray hair and scars visible on his face. "Admiral," and said coldly, "you are not invited to this session." "With respect, Council Head," Sung replied, his voice carrying across the chamber, "you're discussing humanity's role in this council. We have a right to be heard. You violated warfare conventions." "No," Sung said firmly. "We followed the law as written. Every single action we took was legal under council statutes. You don't like it? Then maybe the laws need to be more clear." He walked to the center of the chamber, standing beside its holographic display. "You asked us to join your council. You asked us to defend your borders. You gave us rules written for species that hide from predators. But we're not prey. We never were." Sung activated his own display. It showed human history, wars, weapons, destruction, but also recovery, rebuilding, reaching for the stars. "We have fought thousands of wars," Sung continued. "Against nature, against each other, against extinction itself. We have nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times, but we're still here. Do you know why?" No one answered. "Because when we're pushed, we don't break. We adapt, we overcome, we survive. That's what we do, that's what makes us human." He turned to face the council members directly. "You want us to fight like you? Fine. Next time the attack, next time any hostile force threatens council space, you deal with it yourselves. See how well your careful tactics and acceptable losses work." "Are you threatening us?" a council member demanded. "No," Sung said. "I'm giving you a choice. You can have us as allies with all our dangerous, reckless, terrifying ways, or you can have us as nothing. We'll go back to our corner of the galaxy and leave you to your protocols and procedures. But don't come crying to us when the next threat shows up and your safe, logical approach gets millions killed." The silence that followed was profound. Saw council members exchanging glances, having silent conversations through their various forms of communication. "There had been a threat for decades," Sung continued, his voice softer now. "Decades. How many people died while the council debated sanctions and trade embargoes? How many colonies were lost while you maintained your protocols?" He pointed at the display showing the destroyed moon. "We ended the threat in 4 days. 4 days. Yes, we took casualties. Yes, we used weapons you find frightening, but they will never threaten anyone again. How many lives did we save by acting?" Council Head and stood. "Admiral, humanity's methods are concerning. You charge into danger without proper calculation. You risk everything on instinct and emotion. You build weapons we ban for good reason." "Yes," Sung agreed. "We do all of that, because sometimes proper calculation means letting people die while you think. Sometimes playing it safe means the enemy wins. Sometimes you need someone willing to do the ugly, dangerous work that no one else will do." Found himself speaking without planning to. "If I may, Council Head." And nodded. "I spent weeks with humans," said. "I saw their casualties. I saw them grieve. They feel loss as deeply as any species. But they also have something we lack. They have the ability to endure that loss and keep moving forward. They don't charge into war despite the cost. They charge into war because they've already decided the cost is worth paying." He looked at Admiral Sung. "That's not courage, that's not bravery, that's something far more dangerous. That's certainty, the absolute certainty that some things are worth dying for." The council debated for hours, and Admiral Sung were asked to leave while they voted. They stood in the waiting area, not speaking at first. Finally, Sung broke the silence. "You think they'll expel us?" "I don't know," admitted. "Part of me thinks they should. Humans are dangerous." "Fair assessment." But continued, "You're also necessary. The galaxy is dangerous. The council has grown comfortable, safe. They've forgotten that sometimes safety requires being willing to really fight, not just posture and debate." "Observer," Sung said, "I read your reports. You were fair to us, more fair than you had to be. Thank you." "I only reported what I saw." "Still, thank you." The chamber doors opened. They were called back in. Council Head and looked tired, older than before. "After extensive debate," he announced, "the council has decided that humanity will remain a member in full standing. However, certain restrictions will be placed on weapons development and deployment. Additionally, humanity will take primary responsibility for council military responses in the future." Sung's expression didn't change. Meaning, and said, "When threats arise, we will expect humanity to deal with them. You wanted to fight your own way. Now you will. The council will provide support, resources, intelligence, but the front line will be yours." "Understood," Sung said. "We accept those terms." As the meeting ended and everyone began to leave, found himself thinking about the future. Humanity had changed the council forever. They had shown that there was another way to face threats. A more dangerous way, certainly, but also a more effective way. Later, returned to his quarters and found a message waiting. It was from Captain. "Observer," the recording said, "I heard about the council meeting. Thank you for your fair assessment. If you're interested, the Defiant is heading to the Outer Rim next month. We're chasing some pirates who have been hitting supply convoys. Could use an experienced observer. Let me know." Stared at the message for a long time. The smart thing would be to decline. To stay safe, stay away from human military operations, to observe from a distance. But he had learned something during those 4 days of war. He had learned that sometimes the smart thing and the right thing were not the same. He composed his reply. "Captain, I accept your invitation. I will join the Defiant for the Outer Rim mission. Fair warning, I am still not comfortable with human tactical decisions." The response came quickly. "Observer, that's fine. We're not always comfortable with them either. Welcome back to the Defiant. It's going to get messy." Looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Defiant was preparing for its next mission. Somewhere, humans were training, planning, getting ready to face the next threat. And now would be with them. He had watched humanity charge into war. He had seen their might, their determination, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. It had terrified him. But it had also taught him something important, something the Council had forgotten in its long centuries of peace and protocol. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to have someone willing to fight for it, really fight for it, not with careful calculations and acceptable losses, but with everything they had. The humans understood that. They had always understood it. And now the rest of the galaxy would learn it too. Began packing his belongings. He had a ship to catch. The Defiant waited. And the Cosmos would continue to dread humanity's might. But they would also depend on it.